Okay, we're on Project 2 in Computer Science 2, and as you know, Chapter 7 is on declaring and working with arrays and processing data. So let's get to the problem itself. You're going to create an input file named books.txt. And so the problem is you have a books price point being tracked from several different vendors. So each price is written inside the file. Write a program that reads and processes the data from the file named books.txt. So the valid file would contain a book's code, which is referred to as the ISBN. This would be read in and processed as a string and stored in a string variable. Notice then you have a space and then you have each price. Right? So you have 160.67, another space, 92. And if you recall, a traditional C/IN statement will read until it encounters a space, it skips over the space, and then is ready to start reading again. So this should be read into a string variable, and then you're going to loop and read the same thing over and over again. And since they are the same data type, same sort of data that's being stored, they can go into an array. And when I say, well, I'll explain again later about the C/IN statement. Okay, there should be 5 functions in this program. And if you've watched Mrs. Sorrentino's videos on processing files and working with arrays, she follows the same exact format that I do. The first function should open the file and should have some error processing so that if it does not open correctly, display a message. The second function should read and store data into the array. So the first thing you're going to need to do is read the ISBN and store that in a string variable. Then begin looping to read the prices into the array. You can assume that you're not going to have a file with more than 50 prices. And as you read each price, you should count it because there will be times where you will have less than 50. As in the sample data I gave you, there were only 11 prices. So you should be reading not until 50, you should be reading until end of file. And again, look at the examples that Mrs. Sorrentino provides. Okay, the next function should calculate the lowest and the highest. So in other words, find the lowest price, find the highest price, return them both to main. And then the fourth function, calculate the average price. So this function will sum all the values in the price array. So you're going to have to sum them, keep a running total. And then once you exit that loop, you'll be able to calculate the average. Return that value to main. You should display your results in the following manner, and this would be the fifth function, right? So display is always my last step. And the last step here shows you that you are aligning your colons, you're aligning your dollar signs for the price values, display the ISBN first, then show the count from the file, show the average, show the highest, show the lowest. Be sure your step precision is set to 2. Be sure you're aligning things appropriately. Okay, and back to the project assignment. Okay, I would like you to be sure to read through this, but then also look at this document for program requirements. So click on this link. And it has a couple of pointers in here. So the first thing is your code should be your own. A 0 grade will be given for any of the following. So please read through this. Using code not demonstrated in class. So I see my formatting is off. Using programming concepts from future chapters. Any code showing evidence of being generated by AI. Any code showing evidence of being copied from another student or an online site. So, sometimes what I see is the same code submitted over and over and over again, which leads me to believe that you're all using the same resource because, generally speaking, everyone has their own style of coding. And it could be something simple like the name of a variable. All of a sudden is repeated like 20 times for each student in the class, and I find that very hard to believe. So, please be sure you're writing your own code. I will not accept anything if it looks to me like you're using external resources in a way that is inappropriate, like copy paste from the internet. The other thing I'm seeing is in the Revel assignments, people are spending less than 10 minutes on an entire assignment. I mean, I spend more than that on one question alone sometimes, so I'm finding it very hard to believe that you're blowing through them that quickly without any external help. You should be reading the book. You should be working on those questions yourself. Make sure that your code is easy to read, formatted, as we demonstrate, as Professor Sorrentino has demonstrated in her sample programs. Make sure you're naming your file books.txt. The function should have a prototype and a function definition located below main. And then make sure that you're using the 5 functions that I described in the instructions. The parameters. This is really important. You should be using appropriate parameters throughout, whether they are value parameters, reference parameters, or constant reference parameters, as in the case of arrays. So when you're sending an array to a display function, since the data is not changing, it's only being displayed, you should be sending it as a constant. Comments are extremely important, especially now that it seems like people are using external resources inappropriately, so I'm going to be looking for your level of understanding of what's going on in your own code. Be sure to include your name at the top of the program, brief explanation, comment prior to each function. Okay, a little additional information for aligning output. This here is a link to Professor Sorrentino's video that shows you how to use set with when you're working with numbers and text. And then testing. So testing is really important when you're working with files. I would suggest you test with missing file and a file with no data. See what happens to your code. You should test with files of varying lengths also. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.